What's going on, everyone? Happy Friday to everyone. Hopefully, everyone is doing well, staying cool if you're in the heat. Welcome to the Friday edition of the Climate Update for Friday, July 28th, 2023. Starting off today, we do have one thing to report on out of Texas. El Paso, Texas has now extended their all-time record for days above 100. 43 days in a row. The previous record was back in 1994 at 23 days in a row. So this is truly historic, and it just continues with no relief in sight. So they are literally smashing that old record. They are probably going to double. 23 days, they're probably going to hit 46. I think they'll hit 46 days. All right, we also have this. In New Hampshire, a tornado has now been confirmed in North Swansea through to Dublin, New Hampshire, and it's estimated to have a peak wind of 95 miles per hour. That's an EF1 rating, and its maximum width was 200 yards, 0 fatalities, and 0 injuries with this tornado. It started yesterday around 2:50 p.m. Its end time was around 3:12 p.m. So yes, indeed, a tornado was confirmed in New Hampshire from yesterday's storms. Let's take a look at the satellite picture here, and we can see on satellite here that, let's let this refresh. There it goes. Looks like it's a little behind, but there is a cluster of thunderstorms in the mid-Atlantic. There's also an evolving system that's going over the Great Lakes right now, and there actually is a threat of severe weather. There's an enhanced risk of severe weather there. We'll show you that from Storm Prediction Center here in a little bit. First off, I got to show you this. Excessive heat warnings. They continue in the Northeast. They continue in the Midwest. They continue in the Southwest. The good news is tomorrow is the last day of extreme heat for the Northeast, and it is going to get slightly cooler. Taking a look at radar here, you can see we do have this cluster of thunderstorms that has evolved from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania on southward. Some of these are isolated severe. We do have another cluster that's evolving right now across northwest Pennsylvania, and we'll be watching what happens back across Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois. A system is going to evolve there and make its way eastward. Let's take a look at air quality for today. Not terrible. I mean, we have seen worse this year, but there are still some air quality concerns in the Northeast and in the Southeast. The West is not doing all that bad. There's a lot of green areas, a couple areas of concern, but really overall today, it's just the Northeast that's the worst. And once that front clears tomorrow, a lot of that is going to get pushed out. All right, now let's take a look at the Storm Prediction Center. You can see there's an enhanced risk of severe storms across extreme southern Minnesota through much of Iowa, Wisconsin, northern Illinois, northwest portions of Indiana, and southwest Michigan. Where there is the threat of severe storms, there's a small tornado threat with this as well. Would not be surprised to see a few tornado warnings tonight. And key word, I said tonight, meaning anytime you get tornadoes at night, it's always more dangerous because it's dark outside. You can't see if a tornado's going. You also have this. You have a wind threat and you have a hail threat as well. So if you're in this area and you do get a tornado warning tonight, please take it seriously because it's harder to judge if there's an actual tornado. Because storm spotters, they can't really see it. They get lightning, which sometimes will show, oh, there's a tornado on the ground. But it's not like at daytime where storm spotters and storm chasers are out there and they can physically see it on the ground easier. And there is a small marginal risk for portions of northern New England and North Maine and extreme North New Hampshire. And again, you did see those ongoing storms down there in the mid-Atlantic, which I think that ended up being a little bit stronger than expected. There's a slight risk for tomorrow from Virginia, West Virginia, through to about Boston and Cape Cod, but I'm going to show you here. It's not as impressive as what we were seeing yesterday in the models. The models did trend a little bit weaker. There's a tornado threat with this. There's also a small probability of wind damage. That's higher than the tornado threat, as is hail. But again, I'm not as impressed as I was yesterday, and we do have a couple of marginal risk areas for Sunday. So let's take a look now at the Weather Prediction Center. You can see slight risk of in excessive rainfall and flash flooding across the Great Lakes region tonight. There's also two slight risk areas tomorrow. One in southern New England and portions of New York State, and another one that goes from West Virginia through portions of Virginia, North Carolina, and northeast Tennessee. So be on the mindful lookout tomorrow for potential flash flooding and a small marginal risk in the Four Corners region on Sunday, and again in the northern plains. All right, let's take a look at the tropics. We can see we still have this disturbance, which is projected to go out to sea. It's now up to 60%. It could definitely form and get a name system, but it's not going to impact the United States. We also have these two little disturbances, one down here, and we have another one off the southeast coast. I'm not terribly concerned about either of them. That system that's over Florida, there actually is a neat little spin with that system. If we go back to radar, let's take a look back at radar for a second. You can see here's that system, and you can see it is spinning a little bit, and you're getting a lot of showers down there, and that's going to be the case. It's going to be an unsettled weekend in the southeast. Eventually this system is going to hook up with the front that's going to come down. You can see here's the front up here, and that may actually do something interesting off here. I don't know that it'll become a named storm. It's at 0% right now, but we've seen these little systems do this before, and I'll show that to you in the modeling guidance. Let's take a look at the RGEM model. Here's that system we were just talking about. Here's what happens this evening. You can see showers and even thunderstorms could continue overnight in the mid-Atlantic region. It would not surprise me if this turns into one of those nights where the model's underdue to convection there, and I'll show you on radar. There is already convection ongoing here. This looks to me like one of those nights where models just missed the convection, and maybe a surprise flash flood threat sets up in this area tonight. We'll have to see how that goes. Tomorrow, watch what happens. We do have the system that does the front that does evolve across portions of the Great Lakes. Honestly, the RGM is not all that impressive with this right now, which is rather interesting because there is an enhanced risk out. As we advance this into tomorrow, look at this. Remember how the RGM model the other day was saying, oh, there's going to be a big severe weather event through Pennsylvania, New York State? Here's tomorrow afternoon. It's nowhere near as impressive as it once was. But don't let your guard down. We'll have to see what happens. There's a possibility there could be some cloud cover in the morning, or maybe even a cap, which a capping is a layer in the atmosphere that can prevent storm development or limit how strong storms get. So we'll have to watch tomorrow. We did see something similar to that happen just yesterday in this region. All right, as we can see, we head into tomorrow night. This model is showing a system that evolves across Illinois and into Kentucky. That could be a potential flash flood threat. And remember that system. Let's rewind this. Here's that system over to south. Watch what happens here. And multiple models are doing this now over North Carolina. They are developing an area of low pressure. That energy eventually transfers out to sea. But look what happens here. There's a possibility of a wild card shower event on Sunday evening in the mid-Atlantic region. A lot of forecasters saying dry, but be mindful. There could be showers there. And you can see this low eventually goes out to sea, and look at this. It develops quite the swirl. Let's take a look at the infrared satellite with this. Look at that. It almost looks like it tries to develop a subtropical system. I'm not expecting that, but something to be mindful because the RGM has done this before. And look at the end of the run here. You do see another severe thunderstorm threat in the North Plains. The West Coast is relatively quiet. Let's move to the GFS now. Let's talk about the longer range. We can use the 18Z run. The 18Z run just completed. And you can see on the GFS now as well, we do have a few showers in the plains on Sunday. But look what happens here. Sunday night, you do get this shower event that does now set up across portions of Pennsylvania. And we'll have to see what happens. There could even be a thunder cell or two, a thunder shower. I'm not expecting anything severe, but it's something that's starting to show up more and more, so we do think it's going to happen, and we're going to allow for that. And then in the southeast, you are going to see daily showers and thunderstorms again from Florida, even up into Georgia and Alabama. I think you're going to see daily showers and thunderstorms next week. And then finally, as we get into late next week in the northeast, you do have another front that comes through. And behind that front, it's going to get refreshing yet again. And you can see, even moving on to the 200 plus hour, the South Gulf Coast region. It's just going to continue to be unsettled. And you can see here, the one key takeaway, let's go to precipitation totals. Look at Texas. Not a whole lot of precipitation in Texas. Not a whole lot in California. Southern California does get some shower activity, but the rest of the state's pretty dry, and that's concerning. And it just shows, again, how we can go from extremes. That's the new normal. Wildfires 2 years ago, even a year ago, historic rains in the winter, now back to very bone dry again. That just seems to be the new normal. And we'll stop the GFS at this point. Not really worthwhile to go any further. Let's take a look at temperatures now. We'll take a look at temperatures. We do want to change this model run. That's an incorrect model run. This is the European model. We want to see the 12Z run. And you can see what happened here. There was today. And now let's advance this into tomorrow. You can see 18Z. Tomorrow, yes, it's hot again in the Mid-Atlantic on southward. But I promise you, this is going to be the last day. And check this out. Look at El Paso, Texas here in the European. It's trying to suggest maybe they won't hit 100 degrees tomorrow. We'll have to see if that actually happens. I'm not sold, because look what happens on Sunday. Actually on Sunday too. So we'll see what happens there. But as you can also see on Sunday, it is noticeably not as hot in the Northeast. And Monday will actually be an even nicer day. Because with that system that comes through on Sunday, that wild card system Sunday night, I think that's actually a second front. That just really there'll be no moisture availability left in the atmosphere. But as we get into Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday, some of this heat is going to start to build back north. Look on Monday. You can see Texas, after a slight break, yeah, you're right back into the thick of it again. And you can see here, here's Tuesday. Still not bad in the Northeast, but watch what happens on Wednesday. Wednesday, it starts to get a little bit warmer, and you can see Texas and the plains just very hot. And Thursday, it is most noticeable from about New York City on southwest. But if you're up in Boston, Portland, Maine, Burlington, Vermont, you're actually looking at a really well-deserved nice week. The West Coast, look at this. California coastal regions, not all that bad next week. Death Valley, yes, it's still going to be very hot there. Pacific Northwest, not all that bad. Florida, 90s. It's summertime in Florida. It's what happens, but I do understand you have been breaking some records as well, and that's understandable. I mean, the South has been just smashing records left and right, and as we get into next week and behind that next front, yet again, another trough in the Northeast, which you'll see when we get to the Climate Prediction Center, that's going to result in some slightly below average temperatures. All right, taking a look at some precipitation amounts here, days 1 through 7. There are a few 2 to 3 inch bullseye areas in the Northeast, so be mindful. There could be some isolated incidences of flash flooding. The Plains is another precip maximum area, as is the Great Lakes region, and of course Florida. And we are going to go with that this might be underdone for Alabama and Georgia. I do think while it's going to be scattered storms, it's not going to be like, oh, everyone's getting storms at once. No, it's going to be scattered. Some places will see nothing. Other places will see a quick 1-2 inches of rainfall from downpours. You know, the summer variety. But look at Texas. It continues to be dry, and we're concerned. Look at this drought in Texas. We think that's going to get worse. At least I think that's going to get worse. Now let's take a look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Below average in the Northeast. Well above average with this maximum still being forecasted over Louisiana, New Orleans. It's going to be stifling hot for you. Taking a look back here in the West Coast, Pacific Northwest above average, slightly below average in Colorado, on up through Montana and Wyoming, even the Dakotas and Nebraska, yes, slightly below average. 8 to 14 day, that expands, and I do agree with this. Ensembles support this, as do the models. It from Great Lakes region through the Northeast, even the Northern Plains, slightly below average temperatures to even maybe moderately below average temperatures. Look at this maximum over Erie, Pennsylvania, near Cleveland. Yes, it's actually going to feel refreshing. And the heat in the South, while there is still a maximum over Texas, it's not as bad as what we saw in July going into August. All right, let's take a look at precipitation. Well above average in portions of Idaho and the Pacific Northwest, but the coastal regions will be dry. It's the mountainous region that's going to deal with the precipitation. Slightly above average in the Northeast, below average over the Great Lakes, below average in the South. That's for the 6 to 10 day. Now for the 8 to 14 day, it does expand a little bit more to the coastal areas of the Northwest with above average, with slightly above average in between all the way through to the East Coast and the Northeast. And below average continues in Texas. I'm not seeing much precipitation for you. And California, I continue to see dry conditions for you as well, with exceptions to the extreme south and southeast California. Alrighty, folks, that does it for today's climate update. We'll have another climate update again tomorrow. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel down below. If you know anyone that's really interested in weather, or climatology, or climate in general, or just wants to see the latest information of what's going on, send them my way and share this video with them, or share my channel with them. I will see you all again next time, but until I see you again next time, stay cool, everyone.